Well, it all started for me when I was living in a cabin in the mountains of Southwest Virginia. I'd stepped out of the mainstream of conservative politics. I was thoroughly disillusioned with my ability to influence the system. In the months following 9/11, I watched from the political sidelines as our country formulated its response. I watched as one piece of legislation after another was passed in this crisis atmosphere that had the potential to undermine our freedom and our basic civil liberties that were the foundation of democracy in America. By early 2003, I felt I had to do something, but just what, I didn't know. Then one morning I awoke with the idea to retrace the steps of Alexis de Tocqueville, a French nobleman who had written a book called Democracy in America. He had traveled around this country in 1831 interviewing people. I decided to do a similar trip. I asked a videographer friend of mine, Terrell Broussard, and my friend Pat Spino to help. We raised some money, rented some equipment, and loaded up my Jeep and set out for our first interview. I sent out 50 requests to experts and public figures, and I got 11 to agree to interviews. I wanted to get opinions from across the political spectrum about the state of equality, freedom, unity, and government of, by, and for the people in our country. In our communities, the processes for building trust and communication had broken down. There was no effective voice for the general interest, only loud voices for the special interests.
There's never been, and never will be, a greater enemy of individual freedom, of civil liberty, and the fundamental human rights than war itself.
As we traveled, a theme seemed to emerge, that if democracy was we the people, where were we the people? We covered a traditional New England town hall meeting where the people voted, and that seemed promising, but the process didn't allow for meaningful dialogue. When we returned from the trip in June, I remembered reading a book about a process called a Wisdom Council. It seemed to be what everyone was searching for, a way to re-engage citizens in a dialogue about what was important to we the people. I contacted the author Jim Ruff, and in November an educated experiment was planned in Oregon's Rogue Valley.
Wisdom Council is a strategy to create a we the people. And it would be a lot more convenient and a lot easier if government would help out and get excited and do it. But it's really possible to create a we the people outside of government. In fact, that's what the founders did when they founded this nation. I mean, the founders somehow were a small group of people, 55 people. They didn't really, there were no women, and there were no Native Americans, and there were no blacks or slaves. And they met as a we the people. They called themselves we the people. And there's a story about that. They didn't really mean to be we the people, but they called themselves we the people. And then they made a presentation and just said, hey, here's what we think. And then they disbanded and went away, which is what I'm proposing. We randomly select a group of people who meet and make unanimous statements, and they pronounce them, and then they kind of go away. And then they come back again and do it again.
This whole thing did start out in a rather mysterious way with a phone call saying that I would be getting a letter. And then when you read the letter, you still weren't exactly sure what was going to happen. And so I looked back and I decided to come, and yet I was thinking how many times I've gone to places, and as I would leave home, I would get a little bit of advice. You know, Larry, make sure there's nothing on your tie. This time as I left home, the advice I got was, don't buy anything. Well, I didn't buy anything, but I did buy into something. And this is really a process that I think it is the ground level process just starting here, and something that I hope to see grow. And as we said many times in our meetings, is the thing that will make the difference is the commitment and persistence of the people.
You cannot get more grassroots than what's happening today and has happened this weekend. Random selection of 7 people who did not know each other came together, spent 2 days, and now they are providing their insight thoughts to you. Many of you may not know each other, but look in this room. We are we the people. That's what this country was founded on. So the point is, how do we not feel disenfranchised? Say, what can we do? We're doing something. And this voice will be heard.
So when I ask you in a second for your ideas about what we might talk about, and you just kind of tell me what you are on your mind, it could be things about the Rogue Valley. It could be things about the nation. It could be things about the world. It could be, in other words, what you're coming up with is statements of we the people of the Rogue Valley to whoever. So here's a chance to solve the issues that are most in your mind, and the hope is that other people in the Rogue Valley will go, yeah, I feel that way too.
I believe our politicians are afraid of making decisions that provide true direction.
Okay.
It's mediocrity that we're evolving or dissolving.
Politicians.
And you know, the other part of that, I think, is that so many people just are voting in terms of their party.
We are supposed to be looking to our national leaders for example setting. It's not really being done right now because big money's calling the tune on environmental issues.
So, but let's put you in the position of responsibility, just for the heck of it. You now are the person that has to decide, or to.
I want to tell you that the reason I feel despair a lot as a citizen is that I don't have the answers.
Yes, I feel.
I saw a bumper sticker on our way here this morning. It said, if the people will lead, the leaders will follow.
What part do you want to give up?
You've already got me boxed in here. This is.
All right.
You understand my-
Part of that is how to come together as a society in some way where we all realize we're part of something.
What sacrifice do
Yes,
we want to make?
we're
to make the society
individuals,
work?
but we also are a part of something.
Chris, can I ask you a question? I'm a little slow. But what I'd like to do is, the story I'm hearing, and I'd like to clear it up in my mind, but the story I'm hearing is that essentially what you're saying is, to use an old term, you're proposing a truck farm approach
You know,
to revitalizing the
somewhere
timber
as a
industry.
watershed,
In
and
other
me
words,
as someone that's going to market your resource, or any other individual that seems to want to do so, you got to tell me it's going to be available. You can't be like the government, tell me it's available and then change your mind. You know?
I know that.
Oh, it's complex.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me just write that down as a solution possibility. So what would that be?
If we were to
Have the system work the way it's supposed to work.
yeah, right, by taking the power that we have, by using the power we have.
Using the power.
By taking back control of the system, okay, instead of.
And realizing too that we did give over. We have systematically given over
Absolutely.
power and
Yeah,
rights.
They didn't take it from us, we gave it to them.
Or something, how to get our political system past this mediocrity that's happening and the lack of involvement. If you were kind of in charge and wanted to fix it all, how would you do that?
Well, first of all, make sure that it's not political because, or I should say it's party rule, which means it's a few people saying, we want it this way, and then we support you because we make it this way, and we want it this way because this way is the only way.
So it's what you're saying is make sure it's not special interest driven?
Right.
Okay, so it's like
And
the special
we the
interest.
people, not the special interest.
Okay, driven, where the special interests tell the government how it's supposed to be, and then the
Right.
government implements it, and then they benefit, and the vicious cycle. Okay, and how would you do that? Make sure it's not special interest. How do you do that?
Remind them that who it's coming from.
And how do you, and what does that look like? What does it look like to remind the government that it's really we the people?
That's a hard part. How would we? I guess it has to come from the heart.
And then another piece of that, something around expecting trust and produces trust and so forth like that. And,
But you know, it's interesting when we're talking about trust, because a lot of our talk has been, we don't trust the legislators, and we don't trust the school administrators.
But we trust the people.
And maybe that's the thing.
We trust we the people. And we can't whine because our officials haven't informed us.
Yes.
If our officials have not informed us, we have to go out and inform ourselves. We have to go out and look for those answers. It is our responsibility, and we need to challenge the people and ourselves go out and find the answers. If they're not freely given, you go look for them.
Yeah.
And I would like to see us take a different direction.
Okay.
I would like to see
Well,
us
presentation.
challenge the public with a different approach. And that is,
Here.
let's question the public. Let's generate true public involvement and conversation, thoughtful conversation about the real issues. Let's find out what the real issues are and generate thoughtful conversation as opposed to sound bites, as
That
opposed
is our
to
goal.
watershed solutions or whatever.
And as I was introduced, I'm Deanna Martin, the Director of the Center for Wise Democratic Processes, and I'm really thrilled to serve as your moderator tonight. What's going to happen in our time together, you're going to hear a presentation by the council members based on what they've come up with over their 2 days of dialogue. We're going to have a small group breakout dialogue about what you've heard and your reaction and responses to it, and then we'll close and talk about sort of next steps.
Lisa, why don't you go ahead and read the statement.
We need to be motivated in a direction of we the people, not we the party, recognizing that government is we the people. The Rogue Valley Wisdom Council is concerned about the quality and funding of public education. We the people need to get involved individually and collectively to make changes necessary to secure stable funding for our schools. In order for we the people to evaluate our legislator performance, we desire to have a clear and concise definition of our legislator job descriptions, to be able to know for certain that they are performing their jobs in an ethical, honest, and sincere manner with our best interest in mind, that the vested effort of the public to place them in office is held by them as a sacred trust. As the voting public, we must take individual responsibility to become informed and involved with our legislative political process and the issues and concerns of our schools and the laws that affect our lives.
These guys, you know, they talked a lot, and you know, my ears got tired even. Because I really tried to hear what they say, you know, and I had to ask them a number of times, you know, what is it you really said? You know, and it's amazing how many times you got to hear someone say something to you really understand what they really mean. And I think everyone took that caution.
It amazed me how diverse a group this was, and yet we were able to put aside our individual predilections and come together for the good of the community through our statement and through our decision about what was necessary.
That's schools and our legislators was basically topics, and then keep it in the context of.
And that's what it is. Yeah, they're already kind of.
And it was suggested very much that our legislators really do need and want our information, but so often they hear from the special interest groups, those who are already revved up and powerful in the community and have a voice and will get it through come what may, and that what they want to hear from everybody. And I think a lot of people who attended this weekend felt empowered to do that and to have our ordinary voices heard in that.
And how powerful the process is in itself, even beyond the issues. The freedom to be able to say your piece and be heard and be validated. created a flow that allowed for deeper conversation to take place.
We talked also, as other groups have said, about the reason that this just didn't fall apart and crash and burn is because there was a facilitator. And Lisa was on our panel, on our little group, and she said, you know, it's like having a designated driver. Why can't you in a group decide someone is going to play the guy that's going to be fair to everyone? We want to know why people can't communicate with one another and get excited about their government. And in that regard, we talked about the fact that the reason that this panel got excited is because someone was listening. And how can we do that in our government? Get someone to listen, have a dialogue, rather than everybody saying their own thing and walking away.
Democracy that I'm proposing has to do with voting, but voting is the teeniest piece of it, you know, and it has to do with, you know, people being equal, but people being equal is only the teeniest piece of it, you know. There's something much bigger that includes those, and which covers ground in our current democracy. Even if it was equal, even if everybody had to vote, even if money didn't control our system, we'd probably still be destroying ourselves because we don't know how to be intelligent and wise together. And if you frame us as a bunch of individuals whose votes we're going to add up and figure out who's the majority, and that's what's going to decide what happens, that formulation won't work. That wastes minority viewpoint. There's something about every minority viewpoint that has a lesson for the whole. So what are the processes that can bring all the minority viewpoints to the table? How much can we include at the table? How good is our process to result in a positive outcome? You know, that's democracy. That's rule by the people. But it's a different order of rule by the people.